All right, once again, let's give a big hand for Riya Ganguly.
Where would you like me?
Yeah, you just speak about yourself and then you
Okay, well, that's fun. I'm Riya. I'm currently president and founder of a consulting practice called Mom Innovation Consulting. Prior to that, I was at the University of Alberta as the very first Associate Vice President of Enterprise, and I've also worked into economic development agencies as VP at Edmonton Global and Edmonton Unlimited. You guys are nodding like you already heard this. I was in the bathroom. So during my time, I've actually seen a lot of different things when it comes to how CEOs are thinking about hiring, why they're hiring, what they're hiring for. And it's becoming more and more evident to me that having diverse perspectives in the workplace is incredibly important. Erin did a fantastic job earlier talking about the why it's important to have diversity in your workforce, what's important. But I still think we forget. For some reason, we continue to forget. And I don't know why. It's incredibly important. We know that when you have diverse perspectives in the workplace, we have improved business performance and innovation. A 2020 report by McKinsey & Company showed that organizations with more diverse teams are 33% more likely to outperform their competitors in profitability. 33%. You have increased innovation. We talk about innovation. Everything's innovative. Innovation this, innovation that. But not a lot of companies are all that innovative. When companies have higher racial and ethnic diversity, a Harvard Business Review study found that they're 35% more likely to have above average financial returns. So this is serious, right? It actually has an impact on our business. When we think about financial performance, which is often the basis of a lot of discussions at the board tables and CEO tables, I've been at this, I've seen this firsthand. People talk about, we need to think about our bottom line. Well, a McKinsey & Company report in 2020 showed that the top quartile for ethnic diversity, the companies with the top quartile for ethnic diversity are 36% more likely to have above average profits compared to those in the bottom quartile. Credit Suisse found that companies with greater gender diversity on their boards, we talk a lot about companies, we don't talk a lot about their boards. Boards are not very diverse all the time. Unfortunately, I did my ICD in 2020 and I saw that firsthand, and I would encourage all of you to please look at the ICD program if you're thinking about leadership and participating on boards. We need more people like you in boards, because when you have more gender diversity on boards, you also have greater profitability and higher stock price. So I'll give you two more important stats, and then I'd love to hear from this fantastic panel about their perspectives. So we know that there's also enhanced employee satisfaction and retention. Deloitte found that more inclusive teams make decisions 2 times faster than those that deliver up to 60% better results. And you saw this earlier from some of the work that Erin showed from Glassdoor, that 67% of job seekers said that a diverse workforce is an important factor when evaluating job offers, and 41% of employees say their company diversity efforts are a key reason they stay with their employer. So we really need to think about this because it's incredibly important. And I'll just give one last point. In a world when we're increasingly dependent on social media to give us our information, and companies are increasingly reliant on social media to tell us that they're good, to tell their customers they're a good company or not, 72% of consumers said that they're more likely to purchase from a company that's pursuing diversity and inclusion. So there's no reason not to do this. And yet, we don't have diverse boards. We don't have diverse leadership. It's really hard to point to people that look like us at board tables and in VP offices, and also women are leaving the workforce in higher amounts than ever, and looking at things like self-employment as a #1 way. I actually will be serving on a board at KWCC, which is Canadian Women Chamber of Commerce, and one of the things that they support is women who are self-employed, and they're seeing women exit traditional workplaces and go towards self-employment. Why? they don't feel comfortable in their workplaces. And this is an uncomfortable topic, but one we need to start to be talking about more if we're going to find our ways into supporting the workplace in a more meaningful way. So it's not all doom and gloom. We're here, we're talking, we're trying to find a better path. It's really important that those that aren't in this room are also thinking about this. So when you're out in public, don't be afraid to have the uncomfortable conversation. I'm on stage having it because I think we need to be doing that more. Okay, enough about that. Now, on to the experts in the room. Can I please call up our experts for today? We have Sikandar, Piquette, Eddy Atausi, Melanie Harris, and John Bruce Koua. So you can please come up and take a seat.
And also, we ask all of our panelists to please introduce themselves before we start. Thank you. All right, so we have our extra microphone on stage. Kindly introduce yourselves, panelists. Thank you.
Okay, is there a traveling microphone that they can use?
Hello everyone, my name is Melanie Harris and I am the founder and CEO of Functional Therapy Inc. I'm also a practicing physical therapist. I started functional therapy, actually grew and scaled it almost 2 years ago. We are a full service pediatric therapy company. So we provide supports for children from 0 to 18 years old and their families in their homes, in the community, in schools, and also in our building in St. Albert called Functional Place. We, in the last year and a half, have grown significantly, and the demands for the services in Alberta that we provide right now are almost in a crisis situation. So we have been very fortunate to not have to advertise much, and we've doubled our staff and doubled our revenue in a year. So it's been a very exciting year. That being said, having to find people to provide those services has been a challenge. We are 100% female owned, and we have all but one female employee. So we just hired our first man, which is very exciting. So we're on the other end of the spectrum. And in order to provide our services, we also have subcontractors. So we use about 22 or 23 subcontractors on top of our employees to deliver the services that we provide. And yes, we do have 2 males in those subcontractors, so we have a little bit of this. So I'm really excited to be here today, and I've learned a lot already as a startup and as a growing business, and with a very competitive workforce. It's difficult to think about DEI sometimes because we're so desperate to find bodies to fill spots. But that being said, I feel as a company we've really thought about that in terms of how we're developing our workplace and our culture, and how we want to create a safe, flexible place for our employees to work. So I'm excited to be part of the panel today.
I'm Eddy Atausi, and the CEO of Noble Recruitment. Actually came to Calgary this morning. I have a really good background in environmental management, and many people always ask me, why did you move from environmental management into recruitment? For me, it's more like, based on my background, I just looking ahead for the future. I'm looking for a time where my son or my daughter, they can apply for a job and at least get a job that they really desire, not just a job that they're doing to survive. For me, I just wanted to make sure that, right now, I can contribute my voice, along with other people, to educate a lot of people on the benefit of diversity and inclusion in the workplace, and how each and every one of us can champion that initiative so that a few years from now, everybody will feel respected and valued at the workplace. We also just launched a new software called Orion, and basically Orion, it's an AI-powered software that can help hiring managers make data-driven decisions. So now gone are the days where when people focus on the name or where they go to school, but let's have hiring manager focus on the experience, the talent that these guys are bringing. I'm just going to share this experience. Recently, I was having a chat with the hiring manager, and he told me, he said, Eddy, it's always hard to pronounce some people's name. And I said, you know what? As an immigrant searching for a job, that is the least thing I care about. All I'm interested in, just give me a job. I want to get a job, even if you don't pronounce my name correctly, just invite me for an interview and get me a job. So that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, how we can support businesses, how we can help each and every one of us, how all of us in this room can champion this initiative to make sure that everyone feels valued and respected in the workplace.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Piquette, and I'm the founding director, executive director of the Edmonton Region Immigrant Employment Council. I started back in 2008. It was very auspicious in terms of how we started. I had 5 files and a board, and we had no idea. We knew we had to integrate professional newcomers in some capacity, and it was sort of a big blank slate, so we kind of looked for a number of different opportunities that we thought might be the most efficacious in terms of for people to onboard and write their careers. So we have 2 programming streams and we have 5 staff. And the programming stream, so the career mentorship program, we do about 130 to 140 mentored matches with the local employers here in the city. They all volunteer to be mentors, and we also run networking events throughout the year. My background is in community economic development, and I've spent about 30 years in the nonprofit sector working in facilitating and designing community economic development strategies for rural Alberta. I also spent 8 years in South America working for CUSO and working with local farmers and helping them develop some of their economic development plans in and around the Machu Picchu area. And we are also involved with another sort of extracurricular type of work. We run a mentorship initiative thanks to the government of Alberta, where we actually coach and create a community of practice in rural Alberta and small centers in rural Alberta. And so we basically, after those first days and weeks and months of starting our program, which we sort of decided that this is the initiative we're going to take, we've now de facto become an expert in mentorship. How did that happen? I'm not sure. So we wanted to take that experience and share that kind of coaching and use that lived experience that we had. When I say we, it's also the Calgary Region Immigrant Employment Council. We decided that we would sort of pull together our experiences and share that with people who are wanting to implement a mentorship program in their small communities. And one other interesting thing that we're doing, and certainly is sort of aligns with the topic today, IRCC, Immigration Refugee Citizenship Canada, is our primary funder. And for years, because we work with employers, wouldn't really supplement or provide funding for the work that we do with employers. So everything was for the employees, which means the permanent residents, the refugees who are professionals. This last year, though, they gave us special funding for, we belong to a group called the Immigrant Employment Council of Canada, and we have been doing a deep dive with a systems design approach, working directly with employers, not with employees, but to try and figure out where the bottlenecks are for employers and why they're not hiring newcomers. And we're getting them to tell us some of the barriers that they face, whether it's in HR, HR practices, biases, and a number of different kinds of things, which is really interesting because we know what the client, what the professional newcomer faces, and we hear everything from Canadian work experience, language issues, etc. But it's really interesting to hear it from the employer side and what they see as the barriers. So we're getting some very rich information here in Edmonton, and this project is going right across Canada from Vancouver to Fredericton. And so we're trying to do this in real time. We don't want to save this for a report that's going to come out 2 years from now. What we want is to take that information and send it up the pipe with regards to government, but also having employers share in a candid and very trusting environment where they can share some of their frustrations, because they too have frustrations. They want to hire you, but they also have some issues, systemic issues that they're facing. So we're really excited by some of the information we're getting, and so we're seeing it from the other side of the mirror. And I think this is going to be really helpful. And like after 15 years of being, asking the federal government to help us out, and because employers are part of the solution, and if we can't even, sort of incite them or motivate them in a small way, then how do we get them to the table? So that's a long-winded background on our work here. So we work at the micro level, but also at the macro level and policy level as well.
Hi everybody, my name is Atiq. I'm the president and managing partner of Next Equities. We are a growth and venture capital fund based here in Edmonton. Predominantly, our portfolio is comprised of businesses that we wholly own. Within that portfolio, we've got a number of different types of businesses in different industries, including one of the largest childcare companies here in Alberta called Kepler Academy. So between our portfolio, we've got about 500-ish employees, a little bit more, and I would say probably well over 400 are women. So we've got a pretty diverse portfolio, but certainly have recognized the need for the diversity within our workplace as well. So excited to dive into the questions here.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hi everyone, my name is Jean-Bruce. You can call me JB. I'm the co-founder of Elev Homes. And what we're doing at Elev is we are essentially solving the student housing crisis that's happening in Canada and eventually across the world. How we're doing it is essentially by streamlining the living experience for students. So essentially from the moment they start looking for a place, finding that place, understanding what happens in the lease, and essentially everything that comes with finding the place, so understanding what's in the lease, how to pay the rent, and also like building those relationships with their landlord and potential roommate, and essentially taking off the stress from them when it comes to living off campus so they can focus on their academic success. And I think I'm probably the youngest on this panel. Super excited to be here though. In terms of my background, I recently graduated from the U of A with a bachelor in economics, my major in economics and a minor in political science. We've been working on Elev for some time now. Started off as a side project, and over time the demand picked up, and so we figured, well, let's just double down and sort of like help as many students as possible. And as of I guess earlier this year, we recently partnered with a real estate company to essentially provide the first ever ultra affordable student housing complex in Canada. And we are super excited to open soon here in the winter to welcome about over 100 students in the building that we're currently renovating. And so super excited about that. And when it comes to, I guess, EDI, for us, we have actually been very, I want to say, intentional when it comes to not just the team itself, but also when it comes to like the clientele that we're serving. So we are not just serving, I guess, local residents, we're also serving a lot of international students that have different challenges when it comes to like living out of campus. I was an international student myself. I went through the struggles. One thing I can mention is that where I'm from, it's 30 degrees all year round. But here, you can see outside. So it's one of the challenges that many international students face, many immigrants face, that we're also trying to I guess, sort of like help them navigate. And with this project, one thing that we're also doing is making sure that we have as diverse of a crowd and as diverse of a clientele as possible on the platform. And when it comes to the team as well, so all the founders, the entire team were all, I guess, black. And we've recently added I want to say, a woman on the team. We've had many women on the team, but recently added another one on the team. And one thing I want to mention when it comes to, I guess, having a diverse team is sort of like the reach that you get, because there are different fields that me, myself, and even my teammates and my co-founders are not familiar with, but having that different perspective, join the team and add that to the team has had, I guess, a lot of benefit and of positive outcome. One of them being, I guess, on the marketing and the social media. We had ideas that we had as men, but when we had different additions from different perspectives that joined the team, and I remember one feedback that we got that from one of the team members that joined the team was that we should add more, I guess, personal touch to the marketing that we do so that we can connect with our audience better. And when we did, we actually saw a growth in our user interaction and like the acquisition of the type of students that came on the platform, which was, I guess, great because revenue also increased. And so that's little spiel to just mention that we've had like a lot of positive experiences when it comes to making sure that DI is implemented onto the team. And yeah, I'm super excited to be here and to contribute to this panel.
Thank you. So I generally am pretty easygoing when it comes to introductions, not so easygoing on the questions. So we are going to have pretty tight times for questions. I'm going to ask each of us to stay around 4 minutes for the questions. The reason being that gives you guys plenty of time to ask your questions to this fantastic panel, but you get the opportunity to really understand their interests and where they're coming from, which I think are incredibly diverse. So my first question is for Sikandar. And there's a little preface here. There are a number of opportunities and pressures facing individuals in the workplace, including remote and flexible work, diverse leadership and difficulty supporting diverse leadership, and workplace culture being a barrier to talent retention. Given your role as a founder and leader within an organization, how do you look at these opportunities and pressures to support your workforce today and in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think with COVID, there was also a whole new way of how people had expectations of what is an adequate work-life balance, what is a flexibility that is acceptable to both the employee and the employer. And so, recognizing that in order to be competitive in an environment where you're competing against other organizations for top talent, you have to make sure that you're offering the things that are valuable to the individuals. That said, I will say, especially with remote work, when you're hiring from anywhere, or I should say it differently, when you can work from anywhere, I can also hire someone from anywhere, right? So it becomes a little bit of a different context, and I genuinely believe that, especially for people earlier in their careers, being in the office, demonstrating that you're willing to put in the face time and creating that barrier to entry that exists based on the fact that you're actually able to be in the building, whereas, if I, for example, could have you fully remote, why wouldn't I hire someone for a lot less in a different market? So these are things that I think are a double-edged sword. People think, okay, remote work is so much better for me, it's fantastic, I get the flexibility, and I agree, there's definitely an aspect of that which we have had to incorporate with the hybrid system now that people are recognizing that, once a week perhaps, I want to make sure that I can either do a deep dive of my work at my house or, I have to deal with certain aspects that require me to be home, and that's great, we can be flexible, but I genuinely believe that the more we can create as an employee, the more you can create a barrier around you not being able to be replaced by someone who is far, less cost or adding, more value for the same dollars, those are things that set you apart. And so these are kind of the evolution of the workforce, I would say, that we've been going through. I mean, for a lot of our roles, there just isn't that option. You know, if you're a childcare worker, which is, 300 of our employees, you have to be in the classroom to be doing your work. And so for our corporate management team, we wanted to make sure that there wasn't this imbalance of benefits, if you will, right? So for our corporate management team, we thought it was equally as important for us to be in the office. So things like that we try to be mindful of, but of course, we're also in an environment where, like I said, we recognize that there is a new expectation around work-life balance, and so we try to be as accommodating as possible if things come up, when things come up, to make sure that people know that at the end of the day, you're not just, at the end of the day, we don't want to create an environment where people are punching the clock in and out at 9 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and call it a day. Like, we want to be having a relationship with each of our employees.
Let me just ask a follow-up question for you, because you've got another 2 minutes. It's around the fact that you're investing in companies. You were talking about your investment portfolio and how many women are in your investment portfolio. We know currently that 2% of venture capital goes to women. So it sounds like you're doing things differently. How?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, when we're trying to identify opportunities, in my mind, underserved communities, underserved and often overlooked entrepreneurs are the ones where I think there's the highest opportunity. They're thinking differently, they've got a perspective, it's like you said, they're massively underfunded, which means that there's a wider bucket of high quality potential businesses to invest in, entrepreneurs to invest in, because they've been overlooked. And so for me, that's really the way I look at it is, yes, absolutely, you're like the new investment philosophy we're really trying to follow is not just doing well financially, but also trying to do good as well, right? And I think, as we look at whether it's minority communities, women, entrepreneurs, or intersections across the board, I think what we've seen is that there happens to be more of an influence or more of a focus for a lot of these founders to do good with their work as well as doing financially well, and that's exciting to us as well.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll go on to Doug. Doug, you're in the nonprofit sector, and often we don't think about innovation in the nonprofit sector, but having served a little bit in the nonprofit sector and being connected to the space, I know that that's not true. So I'm curious about how you can maybe share some examples of how diverse teams within your organizations have driven innovation and contributed to your company's success.
It's quite an easy answer for me. All of my staff are actually former clients of ours, and so we hire from within. Certainly, it's a talent pool that we see, and I mean, diversity is the fuel for innovation. I mean, it really is, and we see it. I mean, the way we problem solve, the way we look at things, basically having those different perspectives and experiences that they bring to the table. And I'm speaking about Eric, but we also feel we're an example to the rest of the community. So and I wouldn't say it's perfect. So it has its challenges at times, and Aaron and I were talking about a little bit about that beforehand. But it's worth the effort and the investment and time to understand. Certainly you have to, it doesn't preclude you from not taking, just because we work with immigrants, we need to have an intercultural understanding and awareness, and how we work with different cultures, and also with different genders as well. And and classically here in Canada, we've got sort of this egalitarian approach, very horizontal in some ways, compared to many other countries, which is hierarchical. And that it can be very challenging, especially if you're looking for some productivity and your staff are looking to you for sort of a certain type of leadership. And if your leadership is about empowerment and taking initiative and getting your staff to understand what the Canadian business culture is about and what they demand and how you can be successful in it. You have to sort of let go a bit of the previous experiences you've had from other countries and other business cultures. So I see the benefit. I mean, and I'm quite aware about how we dialogue and how we respect one another's perspectives and bring that to the table, because I could just say, well, you know, it's just not the way we do it here in Canada. That's not going to take us very far. And I feel that the success that we've had is really as a result of that type of diversity of thought and creative solutions to some of the issues that we faced.
Thank you. My next question is for Eddy. So Eddy, what challenges have you faced in fostering diversity and inclusion, and what strategies have you implemented to overcome them?
So basically, I want to start by saying I'm sitting here today because I've benefited from, you know, people from different background, different socioeconomic class taking interest in me, and they became my sponsor. And these people today, they're like my go-to. Like if I have problems, if I want to make business decisions, if I hit a roadblock in terms of the business, I always run back to those people, and they always give me the needed support that, you know, that I need to run my business. But unfortunately, I also talk to my friends and my colleagues. Most of them don't have that support that I have. So I think that's one of the major challenges right now, because you want to make a change, you want to do your best, but if you don't have the needed support or the empowerment, you can't make a change. So that is one of the major challenges. And for my team, I'll just, you know, do the count in my head. So we actually have 3 women and 2 men. I'm like, okay, I didn't know that, yeah, because recently we just hired a marketing firm, and it's the marketing firm is the owner. She's a lady, and a few months ago, myself and the CTO, we were kind of like searching for a partnership manager, and we interviewed a lot of excellent people. But our current partnership manager, she really stood out to us, and since we hired her, and that since she joined the team, we've seen how we've been doing business in a way that it's really driving innovation, because her ideas, her input is really is valued. And so I think the major challenge is just empowering people and supporting them and helping them to grow within the company. And like I said, for my team, we're doing okay. And the other thing too that my recommendation is going to be to, you know, most companies, to definitely, one of them is leverage technology. You can't do it all. Leverage technology to, you know, you can use tools that can kind of like promote communication within the company, tools that can help manage projects, tools that can help collect feedbacks as well, because that is the best way that you can really measure, okay, is our initiative really working? And the other thing too is to come up with a bias-free process. That way, you know, if you're promoting people, you know, if you hiring, you talking about your recruitment process, is it inclusive enough? So I'm also giving a little bit of training to hiring managers about conscious bias. You know, sometimes we just fall into the trap, right? You know, you see a resume, you see somebody, your brain is just automatically judging the person. Oh, this person is this, or they must be this, they must like this. For example, I'll say I like eating like meat a lot, like goat meat. But I know a lot of my friends that won't even eat anything close to like, if I say I'm eating goat meat, it's like, oh, don't say that, right? So, but again, the point is, what I'm trying to say is just that we all have different perspectives. But if you want to really succeed, you need to try to understand people, understand their background a little bit more, and then you will know how to empower those people so that they can succeed in their respective positions.
Yeah, I love that. It kind of touches upon, I think, Erin, it was your talk around cultural add, and it's absolutely that, isn't it? Thank you for that. Melanie, this one's for you. Being a female CEO, which is fantastic, congratulations, you're awesome. How can CEOs and leaders hold themselves accountable for promoting diversity and inclusion within their organizations?
I think I'm a really new CEO, and sometimes I have a hard time even aligning with that title. I have imposter syndrome a lot, so thank you for that. I think it's really difficult when you're starting up and when you're trying to grow a business and you're saying yes to a lot of things and you have goals of growth and scale. The lesson we learned is in our first year, we had some pretty big goals and targets, and we had really motivated people. We did have a very diverse team. Like I said, we're all women that come from different backgrounds, different experiences. So we worked really hard, and we became very close to getting burnt out. So in this last year, this strategic year, our goal has all been around workplace wellness. And really listening to our team and our staff around what makes the environment safe for them. We work with very many different cultures in the work that we do, and we work every day with people who are neurodiverse, and that have many different needs and different ways of communicating and different ways of learning. And we've really learned to embrace that in our staff, in our team as well. So it's been a lot about self-discovery. So really looking at your team and really helping them identify who they are and what they bring to the table and allowing them to live in their strengths. We work a lot, one of our biggest projects is in an Indigenous community. 85% of the business we have is funded through either the federal government or the provincial government. So we do direct service work in Indigenous communities. And our best intentional hire this last year was an Indigenous woman from one of the communities we work in. So she now is our employee. And we say she kind of crossed the table a little bit. And so she now acts as an internal consultant for us. So she helps us not only look at the project work we have in Indigenous communities, but our work across all portfolios. And we really recognized her strength and her ability to help guide us in those areas. The biggest message that I have as a leader, and I've learned in leadership over the last year, has been to approach situations with curiosity, not judgment. So that's the key message that we're sending throughout our staff and our teams. And I feel like that's really helped us kind of set us on a trajectory of success right now.
Okay, and we're gonna have to pass the mic all the way down to John Bruce, because the last one is for you before I do an all panel question. So your question is, what effective strategies do you use to attract and retain diverse talent in today's competitive job market?
That's a good question. So for us, and I think I probably touching on one point that I just made, is that we are a growing startup, still young, still exploring different things and trying different things out. And so for us, one strategy that we've been implementing, quote unquote, a lot, is to make sure that we, lead by example. And what I mean by that is myself as a leader, and with anybody that joins the team, like I mentioned earlier, because we are growing fast, we do have to divide and conquer. And at times, I am the leader, and at times I am the follower. So other team members actually take lead on different projects. And our approach when it comes to, attracting competitive talents is that we actually give the lead on our employees on the different project, and we act as quote unquote the employees, and they are the leaders. So we actually objectively follow their suggestion, their projects, and essentially execute on those as well. And so one thing that we've noticed a lot, especially working with the youth, because many of the team members that we have are either city university students that we hire through internship programs or recent grad. And the reason why we do that is because we are targeting students and we want to get the perspective from either current students, recent students, to sort of like implement their ideas into the project. And so we essentially give them lead on the project and make sure that they have as much, I guess, opportunities for, I want to say self-growth, but also a lot of opportunity to also see themselves through their work. And so giving them lead on the different project has been something that's been really, really successful for us. Another thing is what I was mentioning earlier about like leading by example is that when we work on different projects or we have different partnerships or we essentially work on those different things, we are, again, we make the conscious effort to be as diverse as possible and to be as inclusive as well as possible to show that, hey, this is the team. You might find somebody that looks like you on the team, and this is why we think that you should join the team. And we, I guess, try to make it as fun as possible. And fun is, of course, subjective depending on like your perspective. But we essentially try to make it as, I guess, quote unquote, as much leeway, I want to say, as possible, while, of course, getting the work done, but let the team members and the different people that join the team that yes, we have work has to get done. We have objectives, we have goals to reach, but you can also have fun in the process. Like myself, if you go on our social media, like I'm pretty much on almost many of the different social media content, and our social media manager, one thing that she does a lot is try to like get both me and I guess all three of us on the page or as involved as possible, because we want to show that we are building a startup. Yes, it's a business. Yes, it's a fast-growing business. But we're actually people like you, right? And we want you to know that we are also sort of like part of the process as well. And you joining the team is essentially an opportunity for you to sort of like put yourself out there and get as much experience as possible. And we do hope that the students that we hire, or I guess anybody that we hire on the team, stay with us as long as possible. But the goal here is also to help them grow as whether it be as marketing professional or finance professional or just any professional in general, help them grow as well. And so find a way to portray that through our different strategies has also been another way for us to, hire as many people in this competitive market.
Yeah, I just want to, as I was started reflecting, if you were talking there, Jean-Bruce, and listening to Melanie and the diverse panel, I want to applaud all of you because this is a hard topic, and I think especially for those in the startup realm that are thinking about it early and often, that's so fantastic. Those that are more established, sharing your insights and knowledge with us today has been fantastic. I want to really spend just a second here, because I have a mic, to say thank you to Tracy and the Grow Women Leaders team for putting together such a fantastic panel. And really, I think this room is a wonderful way. It's not something I see every day. I'll be honest, I've done this a couple of times, and it is really wonderful to kind of get this kind of insight. So thank you for that, and thank you for being a part of this panel. There's a little bit of, it's great to see how much energy and enthusiasm there is in the space, but there's also a lot of pressure on the space. We do see top 100 companies decreasing investments in DEI. We see economic pressures, we see political pressures. What advice would you give companies that are thinking about rethinking their DEI strategies? And also maybe just one little insight about how you see the future and the future of the workplace. So I'll start with you, Jean, so you can go down.
All the pressure's on me now. That's a very good question. When it comes to the future of DEI, there's been like a lot of divestment, like you mentioned, in the space. And one thing that we sort of like see a lot is sort of how do we, get DEI back in the conversation and trying to do more in that space. And for us, to be honest, I think the more diverse a team is, the quote unquote the better. There's a lot more opportunities that come out of a diverse team. Like I was mentioning earlier in my introduction, having those different team members that we have on the team that have different backgrounds, different perspectives, different genders, having them on the team has been more than a blessing for us because we've grown exponentially, and you can pinpoint exactly when that growth happened, because of those particular additions to the team, we've seen a growth, of course, in customer acquisition, we've seen a growth in revenues as well, and even with this latest partnership, this was all based out of someone's idea that was, of course, part of the DI group. And so, again, to sort of like advise those people that are sort of like moving away from DEI, I think DEI is something that should be top of the conversation. It should be a priority when it comes to making additions to your team, because if you want to grow and sort of like touch on different markets, you need to get the perspective from someone that's in that market, right? Because let's say, for example, you're building a brand and you want to expand in a space that a lot of young adults operate in, but you have no young adults in the picture. You will try 1,001 strategies. Some might work, but you will burn a lot of money in the process because you need to get the perspective of someone that's actually in the field. And that's something that we do, it's something that we've also learned as we're building the platform itself. We in the beginning, it was a lot of assumptions that we went through as founders, but we realized that if we want to build something that students want and also property owners want, we actually need to have them a part of the conversation and have them in the center as we're building the platform. And so having them in the conversation has definitely helps when it comes to like building a business and having the exponential growth that you're looking for. And so I guess my piece of advice would be that it should still be a part of the conversation. Now, to have that conversation, it needs to come down to how do you, how do you bridge that conversation between the DEI, and for many companies that are already established, the main thing that they all care about is the bottom line. And so how do you show that having a diverse team equals more revenue and more profit in the long run? And that's something that I guess I can't really speak on as of now, because we are burning more money than we're making right now, but I'm pretty sure the cool panelists here will have a better experience than me.
And I think, Aaron has actually put up a couple of slides earlier, and I think there were other slides that do demonstrate that diverse teams do impact our bottom line. So I think, certainly that's there. Okay, on to the next one, because we are running out of time, guys, so really fast.
No, I think you said it best in your intro remarks, where the McKinsey study basically showed that 33% increase in profitability when you actually have a focus on diversity. So really, for me, all it comes down to is perspectives, right? I mean, this isn't about checking boxes. This is about understanding as a culture, for a corporate culture, that you value other people's perspectives and that you want those voices in the room. I think that's the biggest difference between companies that think of DEI as an initiative where I just got to check a quota and check a box, and companies and organizations where they truly value different perspectives, which allow hand in hand with that challenging of existing norms, right? And I think if an organization is wanting to be forward-thinking, is wanting to be innovative in any capacity, you have to be willing to rock the boat. And you're not going to rock the boat with the same people doing the same thing the same way the entire time. So that's the way we think about it. Is this isn't me doing someone a favor because they, are an underrepresented community. This is me recognizing that, to JB's point, inevitably my fiduciary duty is to grow the bottom line. And so the best way that I know to do that is to get as varied perspectives as possible to get the best outcome out of that conversation. So that's the way that we think about DEI.
Yeah, first of all, I'd just like to make a comment, and it's very unsettling and disconcerting that a lot of major companies in North America are bowing out of DE&I kinds of initiatives, and it sets some really sort of poor optic and precedent. But I was working with Eric when we talked about diversity and inclusion, and D&I was kind of referenced, and I've seen sort of the whole gamut. I've seen us move into sort of a more elaborate lexicon and a science with regards to diversity and inclusion, and it's great. But I've also saw with employers that a lot of employers have fantastic policies, spent a lot of money on these policies, corporate social responsibility, DE&I, etc. And when you ask them, so how's that going? What have the results been? And they're kind of going, well, it's questionable. So they've got the policies, but in terms of the implementation and the results, sometimes have been not so great. But what I would suggest is that I go back to 2008. I mean, basically what we talked about when we talked about mentorship was we're talking about workforce, and we're talking about what employers need, and they want those brain trusts. They would like, and they know that a diversity of thought and perspectives is going to benefit them as well. So I would still encourage, and I would ask, businesses we've always have, that from a business point of view, it just makes sense to mentor and attach yourself to a mentorship, whether it's the ARC program or other programs that are around. You get to test drive a number of different potential client or potential employees and help them out a little bit with some of the soft skills that they require in order to be successful here in Canada. So, if people are buying out of the DE&I stuff, that's one thing, but it doesn't preclude them from being active, working with some of the agencies here in the city, because we basically vet a lot of those clients and they're ready to go. So if you don't want to work on your DE&I solutions or your policies, you can still engage with all of these programs that have professionals that are incredible. Like I call them, they're like diverse Connor McDavids, and they're talented and they're ready to go and they're ready to score a goal for you.
I really agree with you, Doug and Sikandar, because most of these policies, most of these companies, they just using DEI like as a buzzword. So when it comes to implementation, they are so far from it. Myself, CEO of Noble, my goal is to promote a resilient, inclusive, and adaptive workforce. And one of the best ways I'm going to be able to achieve that goal is by having a diverse team. So for me, I know that this is part of the company goals, and this is part of what we want to implement as a system. So I don't think it's going to be easy for me to just make an announcement and I'm moving away from it. So you can see that most of those companies, they spend money just to increase their brand reputation, but internally, they don't even understand the meaning of inclusive workplace. I'll give an example. There's a phrase that it takes a community to raise a child. So which means every one of us can take part, the parents, the grandparents, the teachers at school. If you go to a religious center, everybody kind of contribute, right? So for us, it has to be a collective effort. So it doesn't just have to be the leadership who's going to make a decision and they're going to hire 1 or 2 people from the represented community to just lead this initiative. Why can't each and every one of us be part of this? Why can't all the employees in the company just champion this initiative? How would you feel if your colleague, your friends, someone you work in the same company, they don't feel respected? That's going to affect productivity 100%. But if you as a manager, you are championing the DI initiative, you are supporting your colleague, you're supporting people who you're working with, you can see how you're going to be happy, they're going to be happy, everybody's going to be happy within the company. So most of those corporations, they need to go back to the drawing board and really see, okay, what is the fundamental issues here? It's good to have a good policy, it's good to talk about it, which is the intentions, but they need to go back and talk about the fundamental issues and see how they can really solve those problems. So that's kind of what I'm going to take on that. I wanted to add,
I'll be super fast. I think for me, being a new to business, new to entrepreneurship, that I think it's really important that these statistics and this research still sits at those tables when you're developing a business. And, I think about, we started from the ground up, so we established our values, and our values reflect all of those principles. It's embedded in everything we do. It's embedded in everything we believe. So if it doesn't sit at those entrepreneurial tables, that it's going to get lost. The other thing quick is that our business really supports young people with disabilities, and the goal is often vocation and work. So what we do every day supports people to just become employable. And that's often the goal for parents when they're very young, is to think about future and to think about what their quality of life is going to be like. And quality of life is based on acceptance and the ability to feel like you belong and that you're contributing. So it is extremely important across the board.
Excellent. Yeah, no, those are fantastic takes to that, again, very difficult question. So I want to thank the panelists from my side. I'm done on questions, but would like to open up the floor to the audience to ask a couple questions.
Don't be shy. Okay.
This is a great group of people, honestly.
Alright, so we highly encourage everybody to ask their questions to our panelists this afternoon. Any questions? Oh, we have one question out there. Okay. Thank you.
I know yesterday we had the stand here, so I don't know if I should stand here. Anyways, my name is Ify. Currently, I'm Settlement Studies Program in Northwest. Currently, I'm doing my intern with Grow Women, almost rounding up. I want to talk about one of the inclusions and D&I that have been like a concern to me. Yesterday, we didn't touch about it, and today, you mentioned part of it, and my question is on inclusion and D&I on women with intellectual disabilities, women with developmental disabilities. I wanted to ask the CEOs if you have that policy or in inclusion in that area, and what strategies are you trying and initiative to make sure that women with developmental disabilities are inclusive?
I can say in our company, we have a few employees who have neurodiversities, and the part that was interesting about it is that when we went through the interview process, they were self-advocates for themselves. So they were very self-aware. They knew what their strengths were. They knew what their needs in the workplace might be, and they were good at communicating those things. So it was easy for us as an employer to say, you know what, you've done a great interview, you're gonna fit really well, and then make accommodations. I think it gets difficult when we get into some positions for women, men, any gender with intellectual disabilities and the opportunities in the workforce that's there. There are organizations that help with work placement and work connection, and that can help with supporting that. So much like your organization, but more for people that have intellectual disabilities or other physical disabilities. So we've partnered a couple times with work placements for those adults. In our professional business, sometimes at first we found it difficult to be that we really wanted to support the program, but then we were finding it difficult to find the right fit. But we just had to be more open and really lean into the resources and the ideas and the creativity and the innovation that they have. So we've had a couple people that have done work placements with us. I hope that's helpful. I could meet with you and tell you some of the organizations after.
Hello. Okay, can you hear me? My name is Shmaila Masud. I came from Calgary, and I'm a president at the Calgary Single Mothers Society. So you can tell I advocate for single moms. I was a single mom because, as to you guys are all employers, CEOs. One of the projects I'm trying to work on is most of the time single mothers are seen as tied with a lot of responsibilities, and where there's a very low ratio of being hired, and if they hired, and that's what I had experienced in my own life as well, that we don't have a lot of flexibility. And it was one of the incidents when I left the workforce and I had to work for myself, that when my child was lost on a school bus and I was working as a director, and my manager said you should have a backup. So your children of course come first, and of course the single mothers are very thriving and hardworking, but we do see that a lot of the positions, they don't get to make it to it because they're seeing she's a single mom, she might be taking a lot of time off, she might have sick child, this and that. So how do you see that in including them in the DEI? I know United Way, one of the organization in Calgary, they said, after we presented one of the projects, they said, we never thought about having single moms in our DEI program, and they are also the part of it. So yeah, my question is like, how would you see if you have a single mom coming for interview, what will be your view over, and how she can make it through the workforce or the employment where you are trying to hire people? Would you do that, or what would be the barriers?
Maybe I can talk to that a little bit. So I think it's, for me, the presence of a difference should be a strength for all of us, and also that during the recruitment process, I want to make sure that we ask inclusive questions. I think recently on LinkedIn, somebody posted that she was asked if she was married or single, or if she had kids. So that should be a question they ask you in the interview process. And obviously she didn't get a job because she had kids. And the company was trying to defend that, oh yeah, because there's going to be a lot of travel involved, that's why they ask those questions. So we want to make sure that during the interview process, we don't ask questions that will create barriers. We want to give everybody a fair and equal opportunity, because this is how I think about it. If you as a single mom, you're applying for a position, you've already have to tell your background. Okay, you know what, I have 2 kids, I need to pick them up from school at 2 p.m. You've already, you've taken time to understand your schedule. So if you're applying for a position, so we want to give you the benefit of the doubt that, okay, you know what, you understand what is required for this role, and then you're applying for it.
Yeah, and I also wanted to mention that on International Women's Day, we do highlight single mothers who are not only raising their families, but they're also giving back to the community, to break that, stigma and the barrier that kind of creates boundaries or judgments around single moms. So, yes.
I think it was, you mentioned something before that you hired an Aboriginal woman recently. I think that's something that we all need to practice as well, intentional. Just, hire somebody, that, okay, this people will necessarily get an opportunity. So that is the best way that we can definitely promote inclusive workplace. So for single mothers, if you're looking for a job, go for it. And don't let it hold you back, basically, right? And for us in the leadership space, I think one of the first responsibility as a leader is to lead by example. So we want to make sure that we definitely take interest in people in that category, that way we can support them, we can hire them, and help them to live a better life as well.
All right, any other questions? We have questions here? Okay.
Hi. I was curious to know if you could each share maybe an example of a misstep you took personally or as your organization on this, like, in your commitment to diversity and inclusion, and how did you course correct? And what were the learnings you took forward for yourself as leaders and for your organizations?
Yeah, I can speak to a little bit from a leadership point of view. When I spoke about our board being in existence when I came on board, I would say 90% of the folks that were around the table were not of diverse backgrounds, and it was a bit shocking. And I think it was interesting from a board perspective that they were self-aware enough that they looked around the table and went, "This isn't truly representative of our community." And over a course of about, I would say, 2 to 3 years, we worked really hard to ensure that we had gender balance as well as a diversity balance as well on the board. But I think what's key here is being self-aware and not ignoring the elephant in the room, if you will, and doing something about it. And I would have to say that kudos to the leadership that they were aware of it and wanted to do something about it right away. This would have been back in 2009, 2008.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we started off, when we started our fund, we were predominantly focused on manufacturing businesses based here in the Alberta region. So our background was in manufacturing, which is traditionally fairly blue-collar, male-dominated businesses. And then when I took over, we kind of changed focus a little bit towards more these service-type businesses. The childcare industry, for example. All of a sudden, we are now entering into a workplace which is predominantly female-led businesses. And I think just the recognition of the EQ almost recognition that's required when you are shifting from a very monolithic, blue-collar, male-dominated environment to a much more collaborative, much more diverse, much more, I would say, forward-thinking group of individuals who are wanting to all, put their voices forward towards finding a better solution. It was definitely a learning curve. Knowing how to navigate the leadership of a team that's changing and evolving like that didn't happen overnight. So I think our leadership team, our operational leadership team, our finance leadership team, all of them had to recognize that, okay, how we deal with the Kepler Academy team isn't the same as how we deal with this other team. Maybe we should take how we deal with the Kepler team and implement it with this other team now, because the results are astounding over there, and over here it's always been, direct, do this, follow the line, punch in, punch out. So I think we were able to learn a lot from how this immediately new environment that we're put in, how it made us think, especially around culture. I think the biggest benefit was definitely around culture, and then take those into the more traditional industries that we were in from before, and find ways to improve those.
All right, I think that's it. And now I'll be accepting one last question. Oh, we have another answer? Okay, I'll be accepting one last question for our panelists. Any further questions before we proceed? Okay, we have one out there. It's too far. Let me run for you. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Augustina Wadike. I want to ask, since we are opportune to have a diverse collection of CEOs, I want to ask, what are those flaws and red flags that makes it difficult for women inclusion in the workplace, especially in the interview processes? What are those flaws that makes it difficult to employment of women in workplace? Can we get your insights on this so that we'll be working on them not to make this mistake again? Thank you.
I mean, I guess I can sort of like share my insights from the perspective that we have when we hire. I honestly think that it's a problem that's made by women or women in general. I think it pretty much starts because we've been very intentional when it comes to like hiring, making sure that we're as diverse as possible. One thing that we look at is literally, can you get the job done, right? And so that's something that's where like the conversation starts for us. And so whether you are a woman or a man or like whichever gender you identify with, or whatever background you come from, it's a matter of like, are you able to actually get the work done? Are you able to sort of like work at a fast pace? Are you sort of like able to, I guess, join in with the rhythm of the team and like support along the way? And so the main advice that I can sort of like give on the experience is more of like, when you approach the conversation with the interviewer, you can tell from like the conversation and the tone and how the things go, whether the person has a bias or not. And from there, you can sort of like adjust your answers to make sure that you, I guess, quote unquote, fit in. But the conversation, or maybe I guess the question, shouldn't be about what mistake do you make as a woman. I think you should probably be about like, what mistakes do you make in general and how can you improve? Because if you sort of like have a conversation with an interviewer that really has a bias against hiring a woman, anything you say will be a mistake to them, right? But if you have a conversation with an interviewer that is open-minded, like anything you say won't be seen as a mistake now, then the conversation becomes, okay, how can you improve yourself and how can you be better so that you can set yourself up for success? And so that's sort of like different things that we've seen. But yeah, I can sort of like pass it on to anyone else has an answer.
Any answers from the panelists? No more? All right, I guess that's it. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause to Dr. Riya Ganguly together with our dear panelists this afternoon. Thank you so much. There you go, let's wait for them. And of course, this time, let us all proceed to our next session.